Hey everybody, welcome back to the 30 minutes of fame today. That's how I'm gonna say it because I got one of my fellow Newfoundlanders on with me here, Pete Soucy, who, if you're from Newfoundland, you know Mr. Snook, and came up in my promoted post. I'm like, holy crap, here, Snook, let's send a shot and have him on for a chat. So welcome to my show.
Great to be here. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Now, you and I go way back and you don't even know it because my parents were Salvation Army officers, and they ran a camp just right between Deer Lake and Corner Brook, and called Camp Sterrigan. No, Camp Silver Birches, I think it was. And late at night, when we were all trying to sleep, we had the rabbit ears. We could only get CBC. So every Saturday night, when I'm in bed trying, I'd hear my dad out there laughing, watching clips of you. So I'd come out and watch you on Here and Now, and when you're in the middle of the woods, and there was only two channels back then anyway. It was NTV or CBC.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we had a lot of Saturdays together, and I could hear those laughs. And then I started getting more familiar with your comedy, and here we are.
It's great to hear. I did that for quite a while. I think I was on CBC for on the news weekly. I'd do a commentary one night a week and maybe 3.5, 4 years. And then NTV called, and I think I had to be there 12, 13, 14 years. Anyway, it's well over 400 commentaries, as I recall. And they were great. I loved doing those commentaries because they were pertinent. They were talking about what was actually happening that week, so they weren't difficult to write at all. They were between 2.5 to 3 minutes, and they really took off. People really enjoyed them. They got tremendous feedback and following. So it was great. It was like I used to say to people, sure beats working because it
Do
wasn't like work at all.
do you still have access to all those clips? Like, are we going to be seeing a repost of those? And
I should, but I don't. I do have some on DVDs. The deal was that I would do them, and after they aired, I could have them and keep them. And it's really down to me not being on top of my game. I did it for a while. I ensured that every couple of months I would get them to put them on a DVD for me, and I'd file them away at home. But I didn't keep that up, so I have very few, relatively speaking. They have them all, but getting them to go back and find them and put them on a DVD for me now would be almost impossible because it's a lot of work. But I have all the scripts, and I could do them again if I had to. But no, I wish I had. I wish I had kept them all because some were um, some were kind of the equivalent of viral nowadays. You know, people used to PVR record on videotape, VHS back then, and they'd actually get shared around and saved. And I do wish I had them all.
that's wild, man. I can remember that. I can't remember who was the host of CBC National. Peter Mansbridge. When his voice came on, it was like instant nap for me because that's how I used to fall asleep in the Newfoundland, back in Newfoundland.
Mhm.
And but
I'm sure you'd be charmed to know that.
yeah, I remember a couple years ago he tweeted, "Holy shit!" because the Leafs did this incredible comeback, and it kind of shocked me. I was like, "Oh my goodness, Peter Mandelbrot just swore on online." That's
Yeah.
back in the early days. That would have been a big deal back then. I
Oh,
remember
absolutely. Yeah.
watching that the Grassy show when they said the F word on it, and we had a full school assembly because they said F word on TV. So it's
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy, crazy when you look at what's happening now. But those were interesting days, and I've actually met Peter Brankovich many times. He's a bit of a fan himself, I'm glad to say and happy to say. But a real nice guy, and we've bumped into each other at least a half a dozen or more times. And I actually got to sit with him at a fundraising dinner one time. We had a great chat. Good guy.
so when you were touring around doing, I know there was a few visits to the States, watching some of those old Here and Now clips I found on YouTube.
Mhm.
Um, how did you find the reception was to the strong Newfie accent back in those days?
Really, I think the only thing I noticed is I used to have a little bit of material about that to sort of, break the ice with people. And but all I had to do really was slow down and have fun with it. You know, sometimes I'd explain what a certain term means, or I would explain, you know, what I was pronouncing in a different way, more or less, right? But people got it, and people understood the character. There are characters like Snook everywhere, and they're called different things. In Ireland, they're called Teddy Boys, and far and wide, they're called Corner Boys, and everybody knows someone like him. And I think that's part of the success of the character is that people can relate. I can't tell you how many people, how many visitors to Newfoundland have told me. I just had Snook as my cab driver come from the airport because they're out there. Not perhaps as much as they used to be, but
Yeah.
they're still there.
That's pretty funny. I remember one time I went to see Buddy, what's his name, and the other fellers in just north of Toronto in Barrie, I think it was. And behind me was a whole row of people that had no ties to Newfoundland. They got tickets.
Yeah.
And I remember this sweet old lady, my goodness, she must have been about 75. She said, I can't understand the damn word they're saying, but oh, is it ever nice?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the speed, I think, more than anything. And of course, we do have terminology that's not common everywhere, but for the most part, people can get the gist of what you're saying. It's great, actually, when people from away or people not familiar with the culture and with the language sort of connect with it anyway, and sort of become intrigued, and things stick in their head, and they like to repeat them as best they can, you know, to sort of feel they're part of it. I'm a good friend of actually. I grew up with Kevin Blackmore, and I used to date his sister.
Oh,
So we get together quite a bit, and I'm actually these days getting together with his younger brother, who I know as well, and we're sort of practicing some guitar together. But great fella, and boy, I mean, it's amazing what they've done. His career, he was the shyest guy I knew. I think it was 2 years after I started dating his sister before I even heard what his voice sounded like. He used
well,
to sit on the grass in the backyard, play his guitar, and never say a peep. But anyway, it's great to see how well they've done over the years across the country, and how you know how fondly people remember. They're sort of semi-retired now. They're not fully retired. They still come out for certain things, but yeah, you know, it kind of brings up this notion that we've been talking about lately, and that is how it seems like Newfoundland and Labrador, in a cultural sense at the very least, punches way above its weight. You know, if you look at any discipline, comedy, music, film, writing, we have a lot of people for a very small population who've done extremely well. And you see them on the national stage, of course, you know, in 22 Minutes, Rick Mercer, Shama Jumder, you name it. There are people from here everywhere. And, you know, I think it speaks well to our culture and our frame of mind, our attitude. You know, we have a kind of a what odds, good, you know, good time, not a long time type
yeah.
of attitude. And I think that that plays well.
You know, after I put out my very first episode of this, I was terrified. My girlfriend convinced me to do it. Um, my story's been out there. It was on like whatever, just finding the paramedic that saved my life after 29 years.
Wow.
It hit CNN, Fox, Yahoo, everything went kind of viral.
Great
But
start.
yeah, she was my second guest. So I got to interview the paramedic that saved my life. And how many people can say they got to do that? But after that show, I got a message from some guy, and all it said was, I picture his voice sounding like this, but it was, you need to work on that Newfoundland accent because I couldn't understand the damn word you were saying. And I'm like, you know what, man? Pound sand. And
Yeah.
go pound sand. I don't care about trolls anymore. They used to give
Don't
me anxiety.
underestimate my indifference.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's now I'm at the point where, I'm 81 episodes into this, and it's all about impact and, just making a difference. And if there's 10 people watching, I don't care. If there's 2 million people, well,
Yeah.
my biggest one is 25,000 on TikTok, but it's all about impact. And I just love these conversations. So
Sure.
how did you, I guess where most of your stuff, there wasn't even such a thing as online or viral when all that was happening, but did you ever get a
No.
lot of trolls after shows, or people would come up to you or anything like really negative like that?
No, for the most part during my career, it was, you know, at a time where that was rare. And I can count probably on one hand the number of times that I bumped into somebody who really kind of went out of their way to make it known how displeased, and there were a few people every once in a while you get people who were worried about, because there was always a collective insecurity in a way, because for a long time in Canada, Newfoundland was sort of the butt of the joke, the
Mhm.
Newfie joke. And people were very sensitive to that. And some people would see the character as, a caricature, a sort of a mockery, I guess, of the Newfoundland, character. But I always had a different take. I always thought he was disarming. He would kind of lure you in. You would think he was perhaps not as sharp as he is, but he always had a perspective. He always had a point of view. And the gold in the character in terms of commentaries was that if you engage people with humor, then they're listening. And then you can have an opportunity, using the contrast of the comedy, to say something, to really say something sincere or with some impact. So, I appreciated that, and most people did too. And people generally, for the most part, found very quickly that, okay, this guy is actually, he's thinking, he's got a whole wider perspective than we expected. And he's not a dumb guy at all. Comedy that sort of is all about how stupid somebody is doesn't really appeal to me. So I like the fact that he does have far more to say and far more behind what he's saying than you at first think.
So that's all on your one of your Facebook promoted posts that came up with something called Out on Bail. What's the story there?
That's interesting because I kind of stepped back from the character um, just around the time right before the pandemic. Um, and it had been probably 5, 6 years. I hadn't really done a whole lot. I'd kind of sort of said, okay, I've been at this 30 years, 30 plus years. Maybe it's time to sort of step back and, semi-retire and work on other things. I hadn't pursued my visual art. I hadn't really written anything outside of Snook stuff for quite a while. I used to write plays and all sorts of things. And so I was surprised when somebody gave me a call from Bell 5 TV, and I had noticed that they were starting to do or invest in productions, local productions here. And this guy said, look, we've had some tremendous success with things from Newfoundland, like the Mrs. Downstairs, Mary Walsh. And I know I've seen your character. I know of your character. I've followed you a little bit, stuff I could find online. And if you ever had an idea that you wanted to pitch to us, we'd be receptive to that. So I thought about it and I came up with an idea. And I sent it to them, and sure enough, they came on board. And this is back in 2023. We put together a series called Snook Out on Bail. Very simple storyline. Dougie's in jail. Snook is about to go in for a bunch of small things that have accumulated over the years. He's always gotten fines and stuff. But the judge, who happens to be a childhood friend, says, "Look, I'm going to have to give you something unless you do something to mitigate, the situation. I can give you a lesser sentence." So he suggests I do some community service, and he gets Dougie out on a day pass for a week to take the video because he's doing a production course as part of his rehab in the pen. So he starts putting these online, it starts to go viral, and it sort of takes off. And the judge is not happy with that because it's going to be obvious what's going on here, that he's helping somebody get away with something. So that was the basis for that. And then it went over extremely well. They had tremendous response to it, and we did a second series called Snook Still Out on Bail,
Ah,
which is on Bell 5 TV right now for Bell customers, but that will probably go to NTV as well later this year or early in 2027. And I also did a painting series for them where I paint portraits of some of my heroes. There's one back here, Jerry Squires, a Newfoundland painter, very well-known Newfoundland painter, died a few years ago. But I do Gordon Pinsent as well, and Fergus O'Byrne, who people from here would know. Anyway, these are just little 15-minute cameos, or 15-minute sort of pieces of reflection on what they've done in their careers, but also who they are as people. And I thought it was a good thing for, among other things, the classroom, because I was an art teacher and there were pitiful few resources available about Newfoundland artists. And so I've got a program on a painter and a writer and an actor and Katrina Bromley's one of them as well. So that's just a whole other side. It's called Island Nights, and it should be coming to NTV in the next year or so as well.
Now, have you ever thought about my daughter maybe joined TikTok? It was to win some contest, but I've met maybe about 40% of my guests that I've had on the show come from TikTok. A lot of artists, people, because there's such a recovery, there's such a weight loss community on there. And then the comedians, I've had three comedians on so far. Um, but the thing I love about it, so this guy comes on from Red Deer, Alberta, blind comedian. He has 7% vision. So all he can see when he's doing his shows is outlines of people. And we did a fundraiser. He was doing a fundraiser for these glasses called eSight,
Hmm.
which they're like $7,000. So in 4 months, they hit the goal. He can now see.
Wow.
Um, but this last Christmas, he got to watch his kids open his Christmas presents for the first time in his life, like five kids. And it hit me so hard.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
daughter's almost 12, right? And that Christmas, that's what it all is. But
Yeah.
one thing he mentioned that was so powerful that he wore his glasses doing a few of his shows, and then he stopped because I liked not being able to see that guy in the corner on his phone, not being
Yeah.
able to see those people over there having a conversation.
Yeah.
When I didn't have my glasses, I thought I had the whole room, right? And it was so powerful.
Yeah.
And it really makes you take a long look at yourself. But it's so what's that like?
Upsides and downsides. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you were doing a show where like you look around and what's that like if you notice people not really into it
Um,
or just look sad or
Well, for the most part, if I was doing like a large show, it would be on stage, it'd be lights, and it's very difficult to see anybody in the
yeah.
audience anyway. But I did a lot of fundraisers over the years. I used to appear, for no charge at all of these things. I did hundreds of them, and those are smaller events, perhaps in a well-lit room, after dinner speaking, more or less, that sort of thing. And people are all there, and so it's a different vibe. It's a different, and you get some very tough rooms too, where they have the bar in the room at the back, and people are standing and talking at the bar or whatnot. But you sort of over time figure out, how to deal with your audience depending on the nature of it and the context it's in. It kind of builds your skill for withstanding anything. After a while, you can pretty much deal with anything. And there are always sometimes there's hecklers or people who want to be part of the show and all that sort of thing, right? And you develop different methods or tactics for dealing with all that too. It's all experience. It's like any job. You just get better at it the longer you do it, and the more you focus and practice.
So I meant to ask with my whole TikTok area there, and I got sidetracked. Have you ever thought about just, I know you got the Facebook going, but just posting like minute long clips, just doing kind of the old skits, just bringing those back and
It's there. It's there. I've posted pretty much everything I have on TikTok. I did that just before the launch of the first Snook Out on Bail series. And I had some help because that's not my field of expertise, but there are people around. The woman who does it for the series Son of a Critch helped me do that and set it all up and did a great job and got lots of feedback, lots of traffic. And I learned a great deal through that as well because I was sort of in on it. So it's great. I mean, it gets your material out there, and you do make connections. People reach out to you. Right now, I find that because I've started to put a lot of stuff on Facebook related to the series coming to NTV, people are thinking I'm back, back at it, in doing live performances, which I'm not. I do one a year. So they're reaching out again, seeing if I'm available for this and that. So that's interesting that they remember at least, because it has been a while before I was doing that sort of thing live. But the character has never really disappeared because he does come up on social media and whatnot, and I do television still, when I can, and I do lots of other acting, as I do in Son of a Critch and lots of local films. And there's lots of local film work and television work going on here now, as a lot of people know. It's tremendous. It's a great industry, and there are tons and tons of opportunities here now.
you know what I look back on when 9/11 happened, just speaking of the Newfoundland stereotypes, I think that and that whole Gander and situation, that was just before I moved away to Alberta, just after a couple weeks after 9/11. But I remember talking to a guy. I was outside some pub downtown on George Street having a smoke. And this guy, he was like this millionaire Texas oil guy. And he's like, he was staying in a school for the last 4 days. And he said, Dave, I was just I can't remember the name of the hotel, some hotel he was in France, like 5-star, top of the line hotel. And he said, these last 4 days, you people have treated me better than I have been in 25 years. And I will never forget it. And he was at a school. And I remember I was friends with one of the teachers, and they said this guy, 3 months later, they get all these boxes come in, this giant truck full of boxes, and he bought this whole school a brand new PA system, 25 computers, a sound system for the music room, a new piano. Like this school never had to worry about another thing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
find that since that whole the come from away show, it's changed how people look at Newfoundland for sure.
I think so. And there's tons of stories like that. I've heard of all kinds of scholarships being set up by people who are here, who were, on the planes that landed. And it's tremendous, and lifelong friendships. And of course, Broadway shows. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
It's it's very impressive. And it just all came from Newfoundlanders and Labradorians being who they are. And it's a great story, and I think it gives hope to people that that kind of kindness and human touch still exists in the world, and it's still here. And they thought it was gone for good because they might remember it from childhood, decades and decades ago, when the world was a kinder and gentler place. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that insight that the experience, it's a terrible tragedy and all that, but some good things came out of it. So, it's good for Newfoundland and Labrador, good for Canada, good for the world.
So I have a lot of mental health guests on here. Couple of comedians I've had on that told me that how much anxiety they get just opening a show. How big for comedy? How big was comedy for you with your mental health, like keeping you sane or insane?
Uh, well, excuse me. I was a teacher for 5 years before I stepped out of that way back in 1989. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the 5 years I spent teaching. It was a tough job. It was unpredictable sometimes, and I loved the teaching part. I taught high school, but the system was very frustrating. And really, the reason I left teaching was because of issues with the system that I just couldn't learn to live with. And I have to say, as challenging as it is to make your living entertaining, especially in a small market like this province, I haven't worked a day since. I haven't worked a day since I quit teaching. It's been exactly what I wanted to do and what fed my heart and my mind. I got extremely lucky back in those days. It was still possible to get on TV, like Here and Now, or the news programs, the evening news programs, and also you had opportunities through CBC and otherwise to pitch ideas and to make work happen. And radio was far more accessible for performers back then. So I got extremely lucky. I came along at the right time, and there are lots of people who came before me that opened doors, that made it possible, that told me. I mean, when I saw Gordon Pinsent on the Forest Rangers back when I was a kid, someone said he was from Grand Falls and Windsor, and I grew up in Gander, and that was like an hour down the road. And I said, wait, there's a guy from where I live on TV, on CBC. It just blew my mind. I didn't know who those people were, but they certainly weren't normal people from a place like I lived. And that alone kind of just changed my whole, expectations of what was possible. And there was Codco and all the people that came before and made being an actor, being a comedian and a performer a possibility. And it worked. I mean, I was very lucky again, as I say, and I had lots of wonderful people I worked with and for. But I've been able to do this for my entire working career, and all I can say is I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that it happened because right now, like I say, I'm semi-retired, but I'll never retire because what I've been doing for the last 35 years is exactly what I'd be doing anyway.
Mm,
So when I get up in the morning, I have an idea of something I'd like to do, to write, to sketch, to paint, or to perform, and that's what I do. And I do it as much as I want now. That's the difference. That you used to have to keep busy and keep pumping stuff out and keep regular gigs going, but now I do it however I feel like it. So again, extremely lucky.
beautiful. Well, I've got one more question for you that I end all my episodes with.
Okay.
And if you want to answer this in Snook voice, I won't be upset, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. But I've had some pretty heavy episodes, some pretty dark things on here, so I end my episodes with this stupid question just to kind of lighten the air a little bit.
We
So,
can't wait. What is it?
a 100-meter pigeon carrying contest. How many pigeons could you fit in your arms and still have in your arms when you cross that finish line?
Do they have to be alive?
They are live, they're tame, and they're friendly.
All right, so you can't really stuff them in your shirt or in your pockets, eh, boy?
Yeah.
I'd say, on a good guess, I could probably get about, I'm thinking 45 pigeons somehow caught between my shoulders and my armpits and my elbows, stick them down the back of my collar. I'd say I'd get 45 there.
Or
Not guaranteed all of them will be in good shape or carry on much longer after that, but that's a good guess.
well, that'll put you in the top three out of 81 episodes. That'll actually put you in third place. So you got a bronze medal. You're on my podium.
What do I got to get to make it number one?
I think first place was 300. There was an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonator on here with me. He did the whole episode in the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice,
Oh, yeah.
and he said, "I'll cover." Well, I ain't gonna try and do it. He said he'd cover all of his arms, his whole body, with bird seed and butter, and these pigeons would be just stuck to him. So his answer was like 300.
Well, I think he's full of it. I don't think you're getting 300 on anybody. I don't care how big they are, strong they are, how much butter and seed they got stuck on them. But I think 45 and 48 is a pretty good guess. I got to tell you before I go, if you don't mind, there's one story I was thinking of the other day, and
Of
I've
course.
told this to a few people over the years, but not many. But this is one story that keeps coming back to me when occasionally I get a question like, how do you feel at the end of it all? Was it worthwhile? Did you get any kind of, real sense of achievement or satisfaction from doing this work for 35 years? There's one story that really almost in and of itself makes it worthwhile. I put out these Christmas CDs that went really, really, became very popular. I had the top selling CD in the province one year, this Christmas CD. It was just parodies. I don't know if you've heard them, but there were, songs like Hark the Herald Magazine. The Herald Magazine was a popular TV guide here and stuff like that, right? So, and Rode Off the Red Ford Ranger, which is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So, anyway, I had this guy come up to me in a store, big store like a Walmart or something, and he said, "Look, excuse me," he said, I don't mean to bother you. I know who you are, and I just wanted to say hello. I happen to be here for a family get together, and I wanted to let you know that a few years ago, we all came home at Christmas time because we knew it was going to be our father's last Christmas, and we all wanted to be there for his last Christmas. And he said it was pretty grim in the house at Christmas time with your father clearly suffering and everybody pretty down about it. He said somebody found your old VHS, Snook Unzipped, and put it on. And he said we had such a great laugh. He said we probably played it 5 or 6 times during the week we were home for Christmas. And I just want to let you know that you forever changed how we will remember our last Christmas with our father. I went, I mean, I don't know how I got out of the store in one piece, but it told me that not only did somebody appreciate the work, but it had true value and meaning for people, and it resonated, and that above everything else is as valuable as it gets to me. I don't think it gets any better than a story like that where people let you in on some kind of personal gold they found in what it is you do. So just going back to your earlier question about mental health, I I find that performing and getting that immediate feedback in a live situation is like nothing else. Nothing feeds your soul like the immediate and honest response that people just can't help. They just erupt in laughter. And so happy to talk to you afterwards and tell you how much they've enjoyed it and enjoy it and watch TV all the time and whatever they get their hands on. Um, and it's great to know that they have that release and that opportunity to forget we all have stresses and tensions and issues that dog us and drag us down and tire us out and make us look for escape somewhere. Comedy is a great escape, and when it's personal like that, I think it's as powerful as it can possibly be. And that above everything else that I've ever experienced in my journey and my adventure through this career, that means more than anything to me. And if I'm grateful for everything, I'm grateful for that first.
Wow. Whew. Of all the episodes and all the heavy stuff and stuff that's hit me, I didn't think the one that would hit me one of the most would be Snook from freaking Newfoundland.
You never know, buddy. You never
You never
know.
know what's gonna happen on here. It's just, I feel the same way. Like I wrote a children's book with my daughter about going from 400 pounds to doing a 5 kilometer race together, and
Wow.
it didn't
Wow.
break any sales records or anything. But I had one guy reach out to me that he's a veteran that had PTSD. He put on a bunch of weight after he was released. He was drinking, started drugs, but then he had two twin daughters, and he smartened up. And on the exact same weekend that my daughter and I did our first 5 kilometer race together, he was doing one with his two daughters. And him and we're close friends for a couple of years now. And it's all about impact, right? So you never know who could watch that, who could listen to that clip, this whole episode, being inspired by pigeons, be inspired by whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's all about impact.
Yeah, boy, I mean, you can't, it's very difficult to match that with anything else. And nobody can take that away from you. You did something positive. It may have come from, a dark place or the recovery from a dark period, but that's true impact for not just that one guy. I'm sure lots of other people who don't reach out have the same kind of turning point, really. I mean, you save somebody. You give somebody the one thing at the right time that makes them carry on and pass it on, because people pay it forward all the time. They know what they got from someone and they want to do the same for someone else. It's magic. That's true magic. You can't dismiss that or make it smaller than it is. It's huge, and good on you. That's fantastic. That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, and I'm so glad you came on with me. I usually give this little spiel at the end of my episodes, and today I'm going to attempt to do my old Newfie accent that kind of slipped away when I stopped in Toronto, but I'm going to put the captions on this. But boys, if you're out there watching, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it, miss it, share it, but bingo, talk about it at the bingo hall. When you're up at that Legion and that meat draw this week, go check out that Dave Murphy. He had that Snook on. And go watch that guy, because he's really wise and you wouldn't have thought it.
Got every word. Oh, right on. Good stuff, Dave.
I
Well
love
done.
it. Thank you, man. Everyone out there, find someone, reach out to someone, say one nice thing to someone every day for every year, and you can change someone's life.
Beautiful.
Me and Dougie and Bet and Gert, right? And Dougie's got these pills from the drugstore he works at, right? Yeah, them little pink pills, right? Right on. Anyway, we takes the works. Takes them all, yeah. we figure we'd take the pills, get the Buick on the high road, have a few beer, smoke a few joints, listen to some tunes on the radio, you know, have a quiet night to stay out of trouble, right? Right on. So anyway, we're driving around, right? Waiting for the pills to kick in. And I looks down and I see this spot of some kind of shit on my boot. Right there on my boot, right? You know how I like to be right spiffy all the time, right? So I'm driving and I'm looking at this piece of crud on my boot. It starts driving me nuts. It's like some kind of tug of war or something. I'm looking at it and it's looking at me back and forth and back, driving me friggin' nuts. So after a while, I reach down, I start scraping it off, like you would, you know. But I get the hand on the wheel, you know, driving, not fooling around or nothing. All of a sudden, out of friggin' nowhere, bang! Big guardrail comes up over the front of the car. Right on up, old man. Car goes into the big spin, Gert starts screaming, lights is shining and horns is blaring and everything. Boom! We takes out a plywood moose. So finally, we're down off the road altogether, see? Yeah, spinning around the ditch, right, until smoke. We brings up in this big submerged rock sticking up out of the water. So, gets out of the car. Dougie gets out of the car. Bet, Gert, everybody's out of the car, right? And everybody's perfect, though, man. Not a scratch. Gert's coughing up a bit of blood, but that's it, right? Perfect. But the car, my son, you should have seen the car, Tom, old man. You had to see it. Everything was gone, old man. Bumper's gone, headlights gone, license plate. The car was one big friggin' scrape. You know E.T., right? Little friggin' E.T. in the movie? The car looked like E.T.'s head. Yeah. I looked over at Dougie, and here he is rolling these wicked joints, oh man. Wicked joints, you had to see him, Tom, my son. They were huge. Huge, my son. Big as your pickle. No, bigger. Big as my pickle. Enormous. Yeah. Then the pills kick in. All right, party time, right? Middle of the woods, don't know where the frig we are. What now, I says? Fix the car, says Dougie. So he roots around the back of the trunk, comes out with this big can of gas, starts sloshing it all over the inside the car. Says, give me a smoke for a second. I give him my smoke, takes one puff, flicks it in the car. Boom! You should have seen it, Tom, my son. So nice. Really, really nice. Big fireball, my son. 10, 15 feet high, all kinds of colours in it. Wicked old man. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, Gert got to go and ruin it all and throw up, right? She got no tolerance, see? A couple of pills, bottle of scotch, and a few joints goes right to her head. Yeah. So it's up to me to take her home. So about 6 o'clock this morning, I'm dragging her up to the front of her house, you know. And her parents got this regular inside door, you know. And a screen door on the outside, right? So he opens up the screen door. And I sort of wedge Gert in between the two doors. Close the screen door, ring the bell, and get the hell out of there. Yeah. So anyway, what do you have tonight? Oh, we're going out again, oh yeah? Thought you might like to come along. Oh, few laughs, you know, bit of fun. Dougie lunch and everything. He just wanted me to ask you one thing. You got a car?